The small town of Brookside was known for its quiet streets, friendly neighbors, and the cozy little bar at the corner of Main Street. On any regular evening, the bar hummed with laughter, soft music, and the occasional clinking of glasses. But on this particular Saturday, something unusual was about to unfold, something that would change the evening forever. Maya sat alone near the back of the bar, tucked into a quiet corner where the dim light touched her sketchbook. Her curly hair fell over her shoulders as she bent her head, tracing lines carefully with her pencil. She had always found comfort in drawing. The world outside could be loud and chaotic, but in her art, everything made sense. Tonight, she was sketching a phoenix, a creature that symbolized rebirth and strength, her pencil moving almost instinctively across the paper. She sipped on her iced tea, glancing occasionally at the door. The bar was filling up faster than usual, a mixture of locals who came for the music, the drinks, or just the company. Among the crowd were college students, workers from nearby shops, and a few older men who sat in the corner playing cards. Maya preferred to stay unnoticed, finding solace in observing people rather than engaging with them. The bell above the door jingled, announcing the arrival of a new group. Maya looked up briefly, noticing the group of bikers who had just entered. They were loud and confident, their leather jackets catching the dim light and their boots clacking on the wooden floor. At the front of the group was Michael, a tall man with a rugged look, his dark hair slicked back. His friends followed, laughing and shouting to be heard over the music. The mood of the bar shifted slightly as the bikers moved in. People instinctively stepped back or paused their conversations. There was an air of tension that Maya felt immediately, her sketchbook momentarily forgotten. She tried to focus on her drawing again, telling herself it was not her problem, but she couldn't ignore the way Michael's eyes scanned the room. As fate would have it, one of Michael's friends, a younger man named Tyler, accidentally brushed against Maya's chair. He muttered an apology and kept walking, but Michael, seeing the movement, decided to make a show of it. He strode toward her table with a swagger, a grin that tried too hard to be charming plastered on his face. "Hey there," he said loudly, leaning down just a little too close. "What are you doing all alone here?" Maya looked up slowly, her eyes meeting his. She forced a polite smile, hoping to diffuse the situation. "Just drawing," she said softly. Michael chuckled. "Drawing, huh? That's cute." He leaned closer, reaching a hand toward her shoulder in a gesture that made Maya stiffen. "Mind if I see?" She instinctively pulled back, her heart beating faster. "It's private," she said firmly. Her voice, though soft, carried a tone that warned him she was not easily intimidated. But Michael didn't listen. In a careless, thoughtless moment, he tugged at her shirt. The fabric slipped slightly, revealing the top edge of her tattoo along her collarbone. Maya gasped, quickly adjusting her shirt, but the damage was done. For a moment, the bar went silent. The music seemed to fade, the conversations paused, and all eyes turned toward the small corner where Maya sat. The tattoo was striking a phoenix, its wings spread wide, rising from ashes, its colors vibrant even in the dim light. Maya's heart raced, but she did not cry out. She sat up straighter, the sketchbook clutched to her chest, and met Michael's eyes. The look she gave him was calm but intense, a silent challenge that seemed to reach deep into the room. Michael blinked, taken aback. He had expected surprise, maybe even embarrassment, but not this quiet strength. The grin that had been on his face faltered, replaced by something unsure. Sorry," he stammered, stepping back slightly. But Maya wasn't finished. She wanted him to understand that what he had done was unacceptable, that his arrogance had crossed a line. She placed her sketchbook down slowly and looked around the room. The regulars were watching, some with curiosity, some with concern. Her friends, Sarah and David, were still at a nearby table, their expressions tense as they sensed the rising tension. "You might think this is funny," Maya said, her voice steady, "but my body, my space, is not yours to touch. And my story is not something you get to disrespect." Her words, though simple, carried weight. There was something in the way she spoke, something that made the room lean in closer. Even the bikers paused, caught off guard by her calm authority. Michael opened his mouth, trying to recover, but Maya continued, her gaze unwavering. "You see this tattoo? It's more than art. It's every time I've fallen and risen again. Every time I've faced something hard and come through stronger. I wear my history on my skin. Do you really want to challenge that?" A murmur ran through the bar. The regulars, who had been quietly observing, nodded subtly to each other. Some raised their glasses in silent support. The atmosphere shifted from tense to something heavier, something respectful. Michael's bravado wavered. He had faced confrontations before, but never like this. He looked at his friends, who seemed unsure of what to do. The room had changed in that instant. No one laughed. No one whispered. All eyes were on Maya, and the power of her presence was undeniable. After a moment that felt like an eternity, Michael muttered a quick, awkward apology and stepped back. He gestured for his friends to move along, and they reluctantly obeyed. The group found a table near the back, where they huddled quietly, their energy subdued compared to the entrance they had made. Maya exhaled slowly, her heart still racing. She picked up her sketchbook and returned to her drawing, but this time, her lines were stronger, more confident. She had faced the situation without yelling, without fighting physically, and yet she had asserted herself completely. Sarah and David came over, their faces a mix of relief and admiration. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked, brushing a curl out of Maya's face. Maya nodded. "Yeah. Just surprised, I guess. I didn't expect him to be shaken by it." David smiled. "Well, you made sure he understood. That was incredible. You didn't even raise your voice, and yet," Maya shrugged modestly. "I guess sometimes people need to see strength in silence, too." The bar slowly returned to its usual rhythm. Music filled the air again, conversations resumed, and the clinking of glasses became familiar once more. Yet, something had shifted. The regulars looked at Maya with new respect, sensing the quiet courage she had displayed. Even the bikers kept their distance, a silent acknowledgement of the boundary that had been drawn. Maya continued drawing late into the night, the phoenix in her sketchbook seeming to come alive with every stroke. Her tattoo had told a story without words, but now her drawing carried the same message. She felt a deep sense of pride, knowing she had stood her ground, not with anger, but with calm and confidence. That night, Maya learned something important: strength isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's quiet. Sometimes, it's a look, a gesture, a tattoo that tells a story the world cannot ignore. And sometimes, that quiet strength can change the way people see you, and even the way they see themselves. The bar's atmosphere had settled back into its usual rhythm, but for Maya, the events of earlier that evening lingered in her mind like a shadow. She traced the lines of her phoenix drawing, her pencil moving more deliberately than before. Every stroke carried her thoughts, her feelings, and a quiet sense of defiance. She had faced Michael and his friends, and though she had not raised her voice, she had felt a surge of strength she hadn't realized she possessed. Maya looked around the bar, noticing the small ways in which people's behavior had changed. The regulars gave her nods of approval or smiled as they passed by. Even the bartender, a friendly man named George, raised his eyebrows and gave her a small, knowing smile. "Looks like someone's earned a little respect tonight," he said softly as he poured a drink for a customer. Maya returned a small smile, feeling a warmth she hadn't expected. Sarah and David stayed close, clearly protective but also proud of their friend. "You really handled that well," Sarah said, leaning toward her. "Most people would have freaked out, but you didn't even yell," and yet he stepped back. Maya shrugged, feeling both proud and uneasy. "I don't know. I just wanted him to understand that it's not okay to touch someone like that." David nodded. "And he understood. Believe me, he'll think twice before doing that again." As they talked, the music shifted to a slower song, a gentle melody that seemed to wrap the room in quiet. Maya's mind wandered back to her tattoo, the phoenix rising from the ashes. It was not just a piece of art, it was a symbol of every challenge she had faced, every time she had fallen and yet found the courage to rise again. The tattoo was a reminder that strength could be calm, steady, and powerful, even when it was not loud or aggressive. Maya's thoughts were interrupted when Michael approached their table, his expression uncertain. His friends hovered behind him, casting occasional glances at her with curiosity. Hey," he said, scratching the back of his neck. "I just wanted to, say sorry again." "I didn't mean to." Maya looked at him, her calm gaze steady. She didn't interrupt. She let him finish. "I didn't mean to disrespect you," he continued. "I guess. I just didn't think." Her lips pressed into a thin line, but she nodded slightly. "I appreciate the apology. Actions matter more than words, though, so be careful next time." Michael swallowed nervously, clearly not used to being spoken to this way. Yeah, I get it," he muttered. He stepped back, looking at his friends, and they slowly walked away to another corner of the bar. The group still laughed and talked, but their energy was subdued, almost hesitant. Once they left, Maya exhaled slowly. She picked up her sketchbook again and tried to refocus, but the adrenaline of the evening still lingered in her chest. "I can't believe that just happened," Sarah said softly. "It's like something out of a movie." "It does feel strange," Maya admitted. "But I think it's good. I feel stronger." David nodded. "You should feel proud. You stood up for yourself without letting anger take over. That's not easy." As the night went on, the bar continued to fill. Maya noticed new faces, people who had arrived after the incident, some curious about the earlier commotion. Their eyes lingered on her tattoo, and she realized that her story, even silently told, had captured attention. Some approached her with gentle smiles, complimenting the artistry of her tattoo or the phoenix she was drawing. One woman, older and with kind eyes, leaned toward her table. "That's a beautiful tattoo," she said warmly. "It tells a story, doesn't it?" Maya nodded. "Yes, it's about rising after challenges. Every time I've faced something hard, I remind myself that I can rise again." The woman smiled, her eyes reflecting admiration. "That's a powerful message. Not everyone can carry their story so openly." Maya felt a flicker of pride, but also humility. She had learned that strength was not about showing off or winning arguments, it was about facing life's challenges with courage and grace. Her tattoo was more than just ink, it was a reflection of her journey. As the night deepened, Maya found herself reflecting on her life. She had faced difficulties, some small, some large, but each had shaped her into the person she was now. The phoenix was not just a symbol of survival, it was a symbol of learning, growing, and finding inner strength even when the world seemed heavy. The bar's door opened again, letting in a cool breeze. A group of new patrons entered, laughing and chatting loudly. Maya noticed Michael's group leaving quietly, their motorcycles waiting outside. It was clear they had felt the shift in energy, and perhaps even respect for her courage. Maya returned to her drawing, adding more details to the phoenix's wings. She imagined the bird rising higher with every stroke, its feathers catching the light like flames. Each line represented a challenge she had overcome, a fear she had faced, a moment when she had found strength in herself rather than relying on others. Sarah leaned closer, peering at the sketchbook. "You've captured it perfectly," she said. "It looks alive." Maya smiled faintly. "That's the idea. Every line tells a part of the story." David chuckled softly. "You know, I think people underestimate how much courage it takes to be calm in the face of fear. They think courage is always loud, but sometimes it's quiet, like what you just showed." Maya thought about that. It was true. People often believed courage meant yelling, fighting, or being aggressive. But tonight had shown her that strength could be measured in composure, in standing your ground without needing to hurt anyone. Time passed slowly, and the bar gradually began to empty. The music grew softer, conversations quieter. Maya felt a sense of peace settle over her. The night had been tense, but it had also been illuminating. She had discovered something about herself, something that went beyond the surface, beyond fear or anger. As she packed her sketchbook into her bag, she noticed George, the bartender, giving her a small thumbs up. "Good job tonight," he said quietly. "Not everyone has the courage to handle things like you did." Maya nodded, smiling faintly. "Thank you. I just tried to stay true to myself." On the way home, walking through the quiet streets of Brookside, Maya reflected on the events of the night. She thought about the tattoo, the phoenix, and the power of a calm presence. The city lights cast long shadows on the pavement, but she felt lighter than she had in days. Her mind wandered to the future, to challenges she had yet to face. She knew there would be moments of fear, moments of doubt, but the experience at the bar had taught her something vital. Courage was not about being fearless, it was about facing fear with confidence and staying true to oneself. The phoenix in her mind soared higher and higher, a symbol of resilience and hope. Every setback was an opportunity to rise, every challenge a chance to grow stronger. Maya realized that the world could be unpredictable and sometimes unfair, but her strength was hers to own, and nothing could take that away. As she reached her small apartment, she paused to look at her reflection in the window. The phoenix tattoo peeked from beneath her shirt, vivid and alive. She smiled, feeling a deep connection to the symbol that had carried her through the night. It was more than art, it was a reminder, a shield, and a source of power. Maya stepped inside, closing the door behind her. The night had been challenging, but it had also been transformative. She felt a quiet sense of triumph, a realization that courage and strength could be found in unexpected moments. And as she sat down to finally rest, she knew that the phoenix would continue to rise, both on her skin and in her spirit, guiding her through whatever the future might hold. The next Friday evening, the small town of Brookside felt unusually alive. The streets were busier than usual, and the bar at the corner of Main Street was already buzzing with patrons long before the music began. Maya had debated whether to visit tonight, remembering the confrontation with Michael and his friends from the previous weekend. Still, she decided to go. Drawing alone in her apartment had been comforting, but it wasn't the same as experiencing life outside. Sarah and David insisted on accompanying her, walking together through the crisp autumn air. "Are you sure you want to go tonight?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with concern. "I mean, last time, it was intense." Maya smiled faintly. "I'm sure. I feel stronger now. And besides, it's a bar, not a battlefield." David chuckled. "True. Just don't let anyone forget who you are. That phoenix tattoo isn't just art, it's a warning." Maya laughed quietly, feeling a mix of pride and determination. "Exactly. It's my story, and I'm not afraid to show it." When they arrived, the bar was already lively, filled with familiar faces and a few new ones. The warm glow of the hanging lights reflected off the polished wooden floor, and the smell of fresh popcorn mingled with the faint scent of beer. George, the bartender, greeted them with a nod. "Good to see you back," he said. "Looks like last week left quite the impression." Maya smiled politely, feeling a mix of confidence and caution. She and her friends found a table near the back, close enough to observe the room but far enough from the entrance to feel safe. She pulled out her sketchbook, intending to continue her phoenix drawing from the previous week. As the music started, a familiar rumble echoed through the bar, the sound of motorcycles outside. Maya's stomach tightened. She knew without looking that it was Michael and his friends returning. They had parked outside, their engines loud enough to announce their presence even before they entered. Michael stepped into the bar with his usual swagger, but this time, his demeanor was different. He seemed quieter, more cautious. His friends followed, laughing lightly but keeping a subtle distance. Maya noticed them immediately, but she didn't flinch. Her hand rested lightly on her sketchbook, her eyes calm and steady. Michael's gaze found hers across the room. There was a flicker of recognition, a hint of unease, and perhaps even respect. He approached their table cautiously, as though testing the waters. "Hey," he said, his voice lower than before. "I wanted to say sorry again." Maya raised an eyebrow but stayed silent, letting him continue. "I mean it this time," he said. "I didn't mean to, well, last week. I shouldn't have touched you like that." Her eyes softened slightly, but she kept her posture firm. "I appreciate the apology," she said. "Actions speak louder than words, Michael. I hope you understand that now." He nodded quickly. Yeah, I do." There was a pause, and then he added, "I also wanted to say something else. I've seen you. Not just last week, but around town. You're different from everyone else." Maya tilted her head, curious. "Different how?" Michael hesitated. "You're strong. Not loud, not trying to prove anything, but strong. People notice it." Maya considered his words carefully. Strength could take many forms, she thought. It wasn't always about confrontation, sometimes, it was quiet and steady, like the phoenix she had drawn and inked on her skin. "Thank you," she said simply. Michael gave a small nod and stepped back, joining his friends at a nearby table. Maya watched them for a moment, noticing the subtle tension in their movements. They laughed, but it seemed forced, like they were trying to maintain their usual image while processing something deeper. The night continued, and the bar grew louder with music and conversation. Maya returned to her sketchbook, her pencil moving quickly, almost as if she were capturing the energy of the room. The phoenix she was drawing seemed to rise higher with every stroke, wings spreading wide, its flames bright and powerful. At one point, a group of college students approached her table. One of them, a young man named Eli, looked at her drawing with genuine curiosity. "That's amazing," he said. "Did you do that yourself?" Maya smiled. "Yes. It's a phoenix, rising from the ashes. It represents strength and growth." Eli nodded, clearly impressed. "It looks alive. I've never seen anything like it." David and Sarah watched with amusement as Maya explained her work. The interaction was simple, yet meaningful. It reminded her that her story wasn't just about confronting someone, it was about expressing herself, sharing her journey, and inspiring others through her art. Meanwhile, Michael's group watched from a distance. Maya noticed their glances, the quiet conversations between them, and the way their laughter occasionally faltered. It was clear that they were thinking about the previous week, about the unexpected display of strength that had caught everyone off guard. As the night wore on, Maya felt a growing sense of empowerment. The earlier tension had not disappeared entirely, but it had transformed into something different, a recognition of her presence and the quiet authority she carried. She realized that courage wasn't about fighting or arguing, it was about owning yourself, being confident in your boundaries, and expressing your story authentically. At one point, George approached their table with a tray of drinks. "Here, on the house," he said, placing a glass of sparkling cider in front of Maya. "For bravery." Maya laughed softly. "Thank you, George. That's very kind." Sarah leaned over, whispering, "See? People notice. You're making an impact without even trying." Maya nodded, feeling the truth in her friend's words. It wasn't about recognition or praise, it was about staying true to herself and showing strength in her own way. Suddenly, the bar's music shifted to a slower, more melodic tune. Maya looked up from her sketchbook and noticed Michael standing near the corner, watching the dancers with a thoughtful expression. For a moment, he seemed different, less the loud, confident figure he had tried to be, and more a person quietly observing, reflecting. Maya realized that something had changed. The events of the previous week had left a mark, not just on her, but on him. He had witnessed courage in a way he had never expected, and it had unsettled him. It was a reminder that strength could be subtle, powerful, and transformative. As the night continued, more patrons approached Maya, complimenting her art and asking about her tattoo. Each interaction reinforced her sense of self and her belief that courage and creativity could inspire others. She realized that her story, symbolized by the phoenix, was not just personal, it had a universal message about resilience, growth, and rising above challenges. Even Michael's group seemed to take notice, though they stayed at their table, quiet and contemplative. Maya felt no fear, only a quiet confidence. She knew that true strength didn't come from confrontation, but from self-awareness, integrity, and the ability to remain calm in the face of uncertainty. By the end of the evening, the bar had begun to empty. Maya packed her sketchbook into her bag, feeling a sense of accomplishment and peace. She had faced a tense situation again, but this time with even greater confidence. She had shown that courage could be quiet, powerful, and inspiring. As they stepped out into the cool night air, Sarah and David flanked her on either side. "You handled tonight beautifully," Sarah said. It's like you've grown even stronger in just a week. Maya smiled, feeling a sense of pride. I think I'm learning. Every challenge teaches something, if you're willing to pay attention. David nodded. And tonight, you taught a lot of people what real strength looks like. Maya thought about the phoenix, both in her sketchbook and on her skin. Its wings seemed to stretch even higher, its flames brighter than ever. She realized that the journey was ongoing, that each challenge was an opportunity to rise, to grow, and to inspire. As they walked home through the quiet streets of Brookside, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. The bar, the confrontation, the compliments, and even Michael's hesitant acknowledgement, all of it reinforced a lesson she had learned long ago but now understood more deeply. Courage was not about being loud, aggressive, or confrontational. It was about standing tall, owning your story, and letting your presence speak louder than words. That night, as Maya finally lay down to rest, she traced the phoenix on her arm with her finger, feeling its strength and energy. The world outside might still be unpredictable, but she knew that whatever came next, she had the courage to face it. She had risen before, and she would rise again stronger, wiser, and more confident than ever. The following week, the small town of Brookside carried on with its usual rhythm, but Maya felt a quiet tension in the air. She couldn't stop thinking about the bar, Michael, and his friends. Although the previous encounters had ended without incident, she sensed that the story was far from over. Some challenges, she realized, were not about confrontation, they were about standing firm when the world expected you to back down. That Friday evening, Maya decided to visit the bar again. She needed to remind herself that courage wasn't a one-time act, it was a continuous practice. Sarah and David insisted on accompanying her, as usual. I know you can handle yourself, Sarah said gently, but I feel safer knowing we're here with you. Maya smiled, grateful for their support. I appreciate that, she said. Let's just enjoy the night, okay? When they arrived, the bar was already lively, the usual mix of laughter, conversation, and music filling the air. Maya spotted George behind the counter, who gave her a subtle nod. Back again, he said quietly, a small smile on his face. Last week left an impression, I see. Maya returned the smile and found a corner table. She pulled out her sketchbook, hoping to focus on her phoenix drawing while keeping an eye on the crowd. Her friends settled beside her, scanning the bar with cautious curiosity. It wasn't long before the familiar rumble of motorcycles echoed outside. Maya's chest tightened slightly. She knew Michael and his friends were back. Their presence had become a test of sorts, not one of aggression, but one of endurance, patience, and inner strength. Michael entered first, his leather jacket gleaming under the bar lights. This time, he moved differently, less bold, more measured. He seemed aware of the quiet power Maya carried, and it appeared that he had spent the past week reflecting on the previous encounters. His friends followed, talking softly among themselves, occasionally glancing in Maya's direction. Maya didn't look away. She felt no fear, only a quiet confidence. The phoenix tattoo on her shoulder seemed to hum with energy, reminding her of the courage she had discovered within herself. Her presence alone sent a subtle message: she would not be intimidated, and she would not back down. As the night progressed, Michael approached cautiously. He kept his voice low, his tone sincere. Maya, he said, I've been thinking about what happened. I wanted to say, I respect you. You handled yourself in a way I didn't expect, and it made me realize something about myself. Maya looked at him, her gaze steady. Go on, she said quietly, curious about what he might say. Michael took a deep breath. I've been loud, aggressive, trying to show strength in the wrong ways. You've shown me that strength isn't about being the loudest or scariest person in the room. It's about being steady, confident, and true to yourself. I wanted you to know that. Maya nodded, feeling a mix of surprise and understanding. Michael's words were honest, and for the first time, she saw him as more than a figure of intimidation. He was someone capable of reflection, someone who could learn and change. Before she could respond, one of Michael's friends, a young man named Tyler, approached the table nervously. Maya, he said, I just wanted to say. I didn't realize, what I said or did last week wasn't right. I'm sorry. Maya's lips pressed into a thin line, then relaxed. Thank you, Tyler, she said. Apologies mean something, but actions mean more. Learn from it, and don't repeat it. Tyler nodded quickly, relief evident on his face. He returned to his friends, who watched silently, clearly affected by the quiet dignity Maya displayed. The music shifted to a slower, more melodic tune, and the energy in the bar softened. Maya returned to her sketchbook, letting her pencil move freely across the page. The phoenix in her drawing seemed to grow with every line, its wings expanding, its flames rising higher. Each stroke was a reminder that courage could be gentle, but it could also be fierce in its own way. Sarah leaned over, whispering, "You're incredible, Maya. I don't think they've ever met anyone like you." Maya smiled faintly. "I think that's the point," she whispered back. "Courage isn't about fighting. It's about standing tall, even when the world expects you to bend." David chuckled softly. "And standing tall you do, my friend. I've never seen anyone make such a quiet impression on people who thought they were intimidating." Meanwhile, Michael's group remained quiet, speaking in hushed tones among themselves. Maya noticed the subtle change in their demeanor. They were no longer loud or brash, no longer trying to dominate the room. Instead, they seemed to be learning, observing, and perhaps even admiring the quiet strength she carried. As the night went on, Maya realized that her presence alone was creating an atmosphere of respect. People approached her with curiosity and admiration, asking about her tattoo, her drawing, and her philosophy on life. Each interaction reinforced her sense of self and her belief that courage was about consistency, not spectacle. At one point, Michael returned to her table with a small notepad in hand. I've been thinking," he said hesitantly. "I wanted to show you something." Maya raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Show me what?" He opened the notepad, revealing a carefully sketched phoenix. The drawing was simple but thoughtful, clearly inspired by Maya's tattoo and artwork. "I tried to capture what you represent," he said quietly. "Strength, rising above challenges, staying true to yourself." Maya studied the sketch carefully. It wasn't perfect, but it was genuine. She looked up at Michael, seeing sincerity in his eyes. "This is meaningful," she said softly. "It shows you've been paying attention, learning, and reflecting. That takes courage too." Michael smiled faintly, a small relief visible on his face. "I guess we're both learning," he said. As the night drew to a close, Maya felt a sense of completion. The tension that had lingered at the start had transformed into something powerful: a mutual understanding, a quiet respect, and a recognition that courage could inspire change in others. Sarah and David flanked her as they left the bar, their faces reflecting pride and admiration. "Tonight was incredible," Sarah said. You didn't just face them, you taught them something. Maya smiled, feeling a quiet sense of accomplishment. I think we all teach each other something, she said. Sometimes it just takes courage to stand still and let it happen. Walking through the quiet streets of Brookside, Maya felt the energy of the night settle into her bones. The world could be unpredictable, and people could be challenging, but she now understood that courage wasn't about winning or dominating, it was about being steady, true, and resilient. The phoenix on her shoulder seemed to glow under the moonlight, a symbol of every trial she had faced, every lesson she had learned, and every moment of strength she had discovered. It reminded her that she could rise from any challenge, stronger and wiser each time. When she returned home, Maya set her sketchbook down and sat by the window, gazing at the quiet town below. The events of the night had not only strengthened her, but they had also created a ripple of understanding and respect among those who had witnessed them. She realized that courage, when combined with grace, could leave a lasting impression on others, sometimes stronger than words or actions ever could. Maya's mind wandered to the future, thinking about the challenges yet to come. She knew that life would continue to test her, that there would be moments of doubt and fear, but she felt ready. With the lessons of the past weeks and the strength of her phoenix within her, she was prepared to face whatever came next with confidence and composure. As she finally lay down to rest, Maya traced the lines of her tattoo with her fingers, feeling the energy of the phoenix flow through her. The night had been transformative, not because of conflict or confrontation, but because of courage, reflection, and quiet strength. And she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would rise just like the phoenix she had always carried on her shoulder. The next weekend, Brookside felt unusually vibrant. The sun shone warmly over the streets, and the bar at the corner of Main Street was already bustling with activity. It had been 2 weeks since the first confrontation with Michael and his friends, and Maya felt a quiet sense of anticipation. She knew that tonight could be another test, not of physical strength, but of patience, courage, and the quiet power she had been cultivating. Sarah and David joined her on the walk to the bar. "You ready for tonight?" Sarah asked, her voice gentle but filled with concern. "I know you've handled the last encounters beautifully, but it's still them." Maya smiled faintly. "I know. But I've learned something important these past few weeks. Courage isn't about avoiding fear, it's about standing tall in it." David nodded in agreement. "And you've done that every step of the way. No one can take that from you." As they approached the bar, the familiar hum of conversation, laughter, and music greeted them. George, the bartender, waved from behind the counter. "Good to see you again," he said. "Looks like you're becoming a regular inspiration around here." Maya laughed softly, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "Just trying to enjoy the night," she said as she led her friends to a corner table near the back. She pulled out her sketchbook, ready to continue her phoenix drawing and let her thoughts flow freely. The bar continued to fill, and Maya felt the usual warmth of being among friends and strangers alike. However, a familiar rumble outside reminded her that Michael and his group were back. The sound of motorcycles announced their arrival before the door even opened. Maya's pulse quickened slightly, not with fear, but with awareness. She knew that tonight could be a moment of final understanding, a way to close the chapter that had begun weeks ago. Michael entered first, his leather jacket catching the light. This time, there was no swagger, no brash display of confidence. He moved cautiously, as if aware that the quiet strength Maya carried was something to respect, not challenge. His friends followed behind him, talking quietly, their energy subdued compared to their usual presence. Maya met Michael's gaze calmly. She noticed a subtle change in him, a hint of reflection and sincerity she hadn't seen before. It seemed that her quiet courage had left a lasting impression, reshaping the way he viewed strength and respect. Michael approached their table carefully. "Maya," he said, his voice steady and sincere, "I wanted to. I don't know how to say this, but I've been thinking a lot about the last few weeks. And about you. You've shown me something I never expected. Strength doesn't have to be loud or aggressive. It can be quiet, steady, and even more powerful that way." Maya nodded slowly, absorbing his words. "I'm glad you understand," she said. "But understanding is only the first step. Respect is what counts, and actions matter more than words." Michael's expression softened. "I understand. And I want to do better. Not just for me, but for everyone around me. You've taught me a lot." Before Maya could respond, Tyler, one of Michael's friends, approached nervously. "Maya," he said quietly, "I've been thinking too. Last week, I acted without thinking. I want to apologize. I want to be better." Maya's eyes softened. "Thank you, Tyler. Apologies are meaningful, but change is even more important. Learn from your mistakes and move forward." Tyler nodded quickly, relief evident in his expression. He returned to his friends, who now watched silently, clearly influenced by the quiet strength Maya radiated. The music shifted to a slower, more melodic tune, and the bar seemed to transform into a space of reflection and connection. Maya returned to her sketchbook, letting her pencil glide across the page. The phoenix she was drawing seemed more alive than ever, its wings stretching higher, flames burning brighter. Each line symbolized growth, resilience, and the power of rising above challenges. Sarah leaned closer, whispering, "You're incredible. I've never seen anyone have this effect on people." Maya smiled faintly. "It's not about impressing anyone. It's about standing true to myself, no matter what." David nodded. "And in doing so, you inspire everyone around you." Meanwhile, Michael's group remained quiet, speaking softly among themselves. Their laughter was subdued, replaced by thoughtful observation. Maya realized that the true transformation wasn't just hers, it was theirs as well. They had witnessed courage, learned respect, and discovered the impact of quiet strength. As the night progressed, more patrons approached Maya, asking about her tattoo and her art. Each conversation reinforced her belief that courage and authenticity could inspire others. She realized that her story, symbolized by the phoenix, had a ripple effect, encouraging people to rise above fear, embrace their own strength, and act with integrity. At one point, George came over with a small tray of drinks. "For you," he said, placing a glass of sparkling cider in front of Maya. "For courage, inspiration, and rising above." Maya laughed softly, touched by the gesture. "Thank you, George. That means a lot." Sarah whispered, "See? People notice. You're making a difference, just by being yourself." Maya nodded, feeling the truth in her friend's words. She understood that strength was not about dominance or confrontation, it was about resilience, integrity, and the ability to inspire others without saying a word. As the night continued, Michael approached once more, holding his notepad. "I wanted to show you something," he said, opening it carefully. Inside was another phoenix drawing, more detailed than the first, clearly inspired by Maya's tattoo and her art. "I tried to capture what you represent," he said softly. "Strength, resilience, rising above challenges, staying true to yourself." Maya studied the sketch, noticing the care and thought put into it. She looked up at Michael, seeing sincerity in his eyes. "This is meaningful," she said. "It shows that you've been paying attention, learning, and reflecting. That takes courage too." Michael smiled faintly. "I guess we're both learning," he said. The music shifted to an upbeat tune, and the energy in the bar lifted. Maya felt a sense of completion, as if the tension that had lingered for weeks had finally transformed into understanding, respect, and connection. She realized that courage was not just about facing challenges, it was about inspiring change, both in oneself and in others. As the bar began to empty, Maya packed her sketchbook into her bag. Sarah and David flanked her, their faces reflecting pride and admiration. "Tonight was incredible," Sarah said. "You didn't just face them, you taught them something important." Maya smiled, feeling a quiet sense of accomplishment. "I think we all teach each other something," she said. "Sometimes it just takes courage to stand still and let it happen." Walking through the quiet streets of Brookside, Maya felt the energy of the night settle into her being. The world could still be unpredictable, and people could still be challenging, but she now understood that true courage was about standing tall, owning one's story, and letting quiet strength speak louder than words. The phoenix on her shoulder seemed to glow under the moonlight, a symbol of every trial she had faced, every lesson she had learned, and every moment of strength she had discovered. It reminded her that she could rise from any challenge, stronger and wiser each time. When she returned home, Maya set her sketchbook down and sat by the window, gazing at the quiet town below. The events of the night had strengthened her, not just through confrontation, but through reflection, courage, and authenticity. She realized that her story, symbolized by the phoenix, had inspired change not just in Michael and his friends, but in herself and everyone who had witnessed her quiet strength. As she finally lay down to rest, Maya traced the phoenix on her arm with her fingers, feeling its energy and power. The night had been transformative, not because of conflict, but because of courage, reflection, and resilience. She knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would rise just like the phoenix she had always carried on her shoulder. The next morning, Maya woke up with a sense of clarity. She opened her sketchbook and added the final touches to her phoenix drawing, the colors bright and bold. It was a reminder of the journey she had taken over the past few weeks, a journey of courage, growth, and self-discovery. She thought about Michael and his friends, and she realized that her strength had not only changed them, but it had also solidified her own sense of self. She had learned that courage could be quiet, resilience could be gentle, and true power lay in integrity and authenticity. As Maya stepped outside into the bright morning light, she felt the warmth of the sun on her face and the strength of the phoenix within her. The town of Brookside stretched before her, full of possibilities, challenges, and opportunities. She knew that life would continue to test her, but she also knew that she had the courage to rise above anything that came her way. And with that thought, Maya smiled, ready to face the world strong, confident, and unstoppable.